Hello, and welcome to She Leads Biotech, the podcast that celebrates women leaders in the bioscience space. I'm your host, Sharron Cox, CEO and Managing Director of CNA International, based right here in New York. And each week I'll be talking to women leaders about their work, their triumphs and challenges, providing invaluable insight into how women can unlock their superpowers and succeed on their own terms. So whether you're navigating your own career path in bioscience or you're passionate about science and innovation, I hope you're empowered and inspired by each episode. From antibiotics to biologics, and now standing at the frontier of advanced therapies, today's guest has spent 2 decades shaping how medicines move from the lab to the patient. Her career has taken her from leading manufacturing teams to driving product development, through business development, and now helping to chart the course for genetic medicine. What makes her story so compelling is not just the science, it's her leadership philosophy. She believes in the power of diverse teams, curiosity as a driver of progress, and resilience when the unknown looms large. She's candid about the challenges of being one of only a few women in manufacturing early in her career and how those experiences influenced the way she leads today. And while she thrives in the uncharted waters of advanced therapies, she finds her balance in the Austrian Alps, where hiking, swimming, and the mountains keep her energy strong. So please welcome Director of Global Cell and Gene Therapies Portfolio at Novartis, Angela Vollstedt. Hey, Angela, how are you?
Hey, Sharon, it's good to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Oh,
Hello.
absolute pleasure. Where am I speaking to you from? I know you jet all over the world, but you're based in Austria, right? Is that where you are now?
That is right. Today I'm in Austria. So,
excellent.
Well, New York has a lot to say for itself too. When I'm not sitting here and surrounded by nature, I'm probably going to be somewhere like New York or some other major city. So it's the balance.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking time out. I know how busy your schedule is, so I'm very grateful for you taking the time out to talk to us. I know that you're very much at the advanced therapies in the cell and gene space, and you've got a long career in pharma and in big pharma, and you're now at that kind of intersection between pharma and these new cutting edge therapies. How has that journey been for you? How did it start and bring you to where you are with that now?
It's a great question. And as I progress through that, it's one that I reflect on ever more, especially since the evolution in the space is so rapid. So when I set out in my career, it's been 20 years. So I have seen most of the major pharma developments in the last 2 decades. I started out in manufacturing. And when I finished my PhD in biotechnology, I was a little bit unsure about where I wanted to make. And I landed a job in a pharmaceutical company in an area that I hadn't actually considered for myself. And it was a surprise. I started out as a manufacturing head, which was a very, very cold and deep jump into the water, leading a small manufacturing team in what is today legacy pharmaceutical manufacturing. Of manufacturing antibiotics, in fact.
Okay.
And this is something that over time has become very rare in Europe, that we make any such products at all. And I witnessed the transition of this then core technology leaving Europe, going to countries like China, low-cost countries across the world, and phasing out this technology and this type of manufacturing of products altogether. So being a biotechnologist by training, I went back to my roots, so to speak, and actually went into manufacturing of biopharmaceuticals, and again took a manufacturing head role in a space that was very exciting at the time, covering biopharmaceuticals, drug substance, drug product manufacturing, and having seen a variety of developments in the manufacturing space, I decided I wanted to go into product development. So from manufacturing into, if you will, the sort of the entry point into the products and being able to influence how products took their shape. And I went into biologics development as a program leader, looking into what makes a successful product, is what motivated me to take on development teams on the journey through product lifecycle. So it's given me It's given me a decade and a half of insight into navigating product development and manufacturing through clinical development and into commercialization and evolving products through their life cycle on the markets to maintain their cost effectiveness, their competitiveness, and to really stay abreast of market needs, patient needs. At some point, I decided I wanted to bring a little bit of fresh life into product portfolios, and I left manufacturing and development to go into business development. And I spent several years really scouting around, looking for the best fit opportunities for the business, for fresh products into the portfolio, strategic partnerships to find the right partners to collaborate on commercial strategies with. And after a while, I realized that there's a lot of exciting technology happening in the space, but it's happening somewhere else. And that was something that motivated me to leave the traditional biologics manufacturing and development space to go into advanced therapies.
Right.
For me, that was an inflection point. An inflection point, seeing what genetic medicine was developing, the opportunities that lie in that space, but also the challenges that lie in that space. The lack of maturity in knowing how to develop the products and bring them to market, that is something that I wanted to explore more fully, more deeply, and that is how I jumped into the advanced therapy space.
Okay. And you joined obviously in manufacturing very early in your career. How was it being a woman in manufacturing at that time where you were? I only ask this because I was in recruitment in the UK, around about 20 years that I was in that sector that dealt with manufacturing and the engineering side, as well as the manufacturing of all different areas. And it was very male dominated. Was that the same for you, or how did you maneuver that?
You're right. It wasn't any different for me. It was very male dominated. And for me, it was a double surprise. So I was not particularly focused on a career in manufacturing in the first place. It wasn't something that I had entertained much of an idea about. And when I applied for roles in the pharmaceutical industry, I was not exactly clear in what way best to make my mark. I was actually recruited into a manufacturing head role on the spot, on the spur of a moment, when applying for an entirely different role. So I didn't even know I was heading in that direction until the moment when someone gave me that opportunity. And I didn't have too long to think about whether I wanted to take the opportunity because It was unique. It was exciting. What I would say is it was a woman who recruited me. And the two of us were, as far as I recall, the only women in the manufacturing space in that business at the time. And it was a terrific collaboration that we had. And I would say we had excellent collaboration with all of the workforce, all of the men working there. But we were the only ones. And that made that a particularly unique start into my career. Because not only did I jump into something unexpectedly, unplanned, but also in a space with very little female role model apart from the person who recruited me to look up to. So, in response to your question, it was daunting, it was exhilarating, it was very taxing, and it was really a jump into the deep water for me in my personal development, because I was also alone as a female in that role and had to find my own way through all these new developments.
And how do you think that impacted your leadership and management style going forward on in your career?
In a number of ways. So for me personally, going through that journey was one of exploration. I was driven by curiosity, and I was driven by the need to be resilient in a very dynamic, fast-paced space. And I had to learn a lot, and I had to learn it very, very quickly, because when you come in and you're asked to lead a manufacturing team, you haven't got a lot of time to sit around and figure it out. And there's not anyone really who's going to take you by the hand and explain it. So you have to learn by doing. So very early on, I learned some core rules that I've taken through my career. One is curiosity, and to reach out whenever there is anything that I am unsure about, to bring the right people together for me to learn from and to find the right people to lead the work that needs to be done in a given team because the expertise is there. And as a leader, you want to have the best people to be working with. I was the least experienced. I was the most junior. And I was the one who was perhaps from that moment away the least likely to be able to advise anyone on what to do. So it's a very humbling experience at the same time as a great opportunity to recognize what makes a great team, that you need to have the right people to do the right work with the right skill sets, but that you also, as a leader, are responsible for enabling others to be their best in their roles.
Yeah. So 20 years down the road, what would you say was the key thing that you've taken away from those early days on the kind of manufacturing shop floor and managing those to where you are now?
Some of the core themes have stayed. Every team has to have a diversity of skills, of experience, of viewpoints. That's what makes a team strong, and that's what makes a team powerful. But what makes a team perform is not only the individual skills that come together, but really turning that into a cohesive and well-oiled machine. And so my main takeaway from that very early experience in leading manufacturing teams is that it takes a team to deliver the output. It isn't only one person who carries the weight. And for me as a leader, it's important to create that framework, to enable others, and to make sure that the team has what it needs to develop, to flourish in that situation, and to pave the way for them. That is something that has stayed with me, and that has been regardless of whether it's been in manufacturing, whether it's been in product development, or indeed in business development and partnering, where you're probably bringing people together with very different company cultures, cultural backgrounds, geographical backgrounds. It's the breadth of experience that makes the team perform, but it's also the breadth of experience that you need to manage as a leader, because of course the differences that come together in a team don't necessarily always immediately find that connection. So that is a little bit the tension there.
Yeah, and it's building the blocks with the individuals as you go through, right?
That's right. Right. It's very much a creative process. And to be honest with you, that's what I love most about it, right? It is a true privilege to be able to work with people on great projects, whatever they are, and being able to motivate people to work together, to find the best way of working together, which can be challenging.
It's a challenge in itself.
But it is a privilege. But it is a privilege to be able to do so.
And I think it's also very much remembering that every person is an individual. Even though their job titles might be the same, their approach may be different. So it's managing people for who they are, not what their job is. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It is very much seeing the person for who they are, bringing them in with their experience, their viewpoints, their strengths, their ability to scale connections, and to do so across a broad set of people coming together in a team. That is the leadership role of enabling that to come to fruition, of building the strongest possible outcome from people and really leveraging their individual strengths.
Yeah. And how did that change for you when you moved into product development? Was there a change?
Well, yes, there is a change. And there is a change because in product development, of course, you're in a much more creative space.
Yep.
Manufacturing is very clear. You have your targets, you have your processes that you're running in order to deliver products on time. So there's a lot of time pressure. There's a lot of operational excellence that is required. There's a lot of systems to be built to streamline and to drive efficiency. Product development is different. Product development can take very circuitous routes. When you're looking at a pool of people working together who are typically academic scientists, who want to explore, who want to get creative, who've got a lot of experience in developing perhaps other products to what you're working on. And the creative process there is really quite, I often think of it a little bit as a painting, a mural painting where you had a lot of lines and maybe some dots, and you have to kind of find the picture at the end of the day. You might have a notion of where you're going, but you don't have a clear picture of what it looks like as you set off on that journey. So it's very much a journey of exploration together. of bringing in skills and experiences as in other environments, but allowing those to run somewhat more freely to kind of see where you can, where are you going to land in your development, where you often find unexpected things. You never know exactly what's going to be the outcome. And that's fun.
That's part of the fun.
It's fun, but it's like going on an expedition every day and saying, what are we going to find today? So the element there is much more focused on curiosity, of having excellent collaboration to explore and communicate the findings, and then sort of digest them, see, what do we make of this? Where is that taking us? So it's a lot more work in progress on a very long time.
Right. So you're using left brain, right brain, muddled brain all together. It's very exciting.
Yes. And the muddled brain for sure.
Right. Let's not forget the muddled brain. I live my life that way. That's what works for me. So you've been at Novartis for a number of years. How long have you been in this advanced therapies area? Because that kind of moved into a whole new direction for you. How long has that been? How long have you been doing that?
So I moved into the advanced therapy space in 2021. It's not actually been that long. I have been with Novartis all my career, but I have been able to move through not only through what I feel is the history of pharmaceutical development, going from small chemical entities now to genetic medicine, is quite the arc. And it's been possible to navigate all these different modalities and different types of roles in my career in this company, really going from manufacturing through development into business development and then back into development to kind of synthesize the experiences from more established ways of working and developing into a space that is still very much trying to find its way of doing business. And that is the big conundrum for all of us, is to figure out how does this make sense? What is important? What does efficiency look like? And very much a journey of exploration. And I feel that the breadth and wealth of experience that I have has put me in good stead to have a bit of a resilient package going into these very uncharted waters in the advanced therapies.
Uncharted, it certainly is. It's not for the faint-hearted, is it?
It is not for the faint-hearted.
And that's interesting because I read somewhere you described your strength as bridging operational excellence with entrepreneurial ability. Can you give me an example of how that's happened, how that balance was tested and how you kind of navigated it?
Absolutely. It's tested daily. It's tested daily. So let me try to paint the picture. I mean, in the advanced therapies, we're looking at modalities that in and of themselves are not always that well understood, but they present scientifically enormous potential for potentially curative therapies. They're exciting for that reason because the science is well understood, but translating science into a product and a commercially viable product is an entrepreneurial drive that requires a good understanding of how the industry aims to work. And it requires a good understanding of what patients are looking for, and it requires a good understanding and leadership of bringing teams together to be able to put in place what is needed in a space where there is very little clarity. So being entrepreneurial is absolutely key, in my view, in being able to navigate this space, because we're trying to do everything differently. If you're talking about personalized medicine, you're talking about genetic medicine, this is going down to the individual level. You're really thinking about the patient in completely new ways, where you as the manufacturer, as the product developer, might be the direct point of contact for the patient. In legacy product development, that's not been the case. So operational excellence that we've learned over the decades is scalable only to some extent. As we're moving away from mass-produced products into personalized medicine, we have to rethink in entrepreneurial as much as in scientific terms. What does it take to be successful?
How do we keep the costs down to...
Exactly. Being successful means having a viable business product and not just having a great scientific concept. And that is where there is a lot of concern at the moment, is that the concepts are fantastic, are brilliant. How to scale this into something that is economically viable is, of course, the major challenge.
I know when you posted something about the vision of booking the bus a bit like an Uber and having these, how realistic do you think that these amazing initiatives are going to be, and what do you see as potentially the blocks to it and how to overcome that? And I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot with that, but
it's a tricky one. It's a tricky question. How realistic is it? Is a little bit the crystal ball question, right? And I think we need to take two lenses to that. One is, would it be doable? The second is, are we going to find the right momentum? A weak spot in the autologous cell therapies that exists at the moment in most countries, whereby patients' access to the therapies is often hindered by physical access, between having treatment centers available to them and treatment centers capable of handling the apheresis, and the apheresis moving to the manufacturing facilities where the therapy can be produced. The bus bridges that, in that it's patient outreach. Effectively, the bus goes to the patient and enables these connections to be made in a very simple way. The system is complex, and it takes out of the equation at this point in time the need to engineer more complex systems. It simply says there is a weak spot in the system. Here's an opportunity. We can bridge it in this way. And it's the simplicity of this idea that is so powerful, because it's very straightforward for everyone to understand there is a bus that can come. Yep. So conceptually, moving into a vision of being able to call the bus and say, here is a patient who needs access to the therapy, and there being a bus to be able to deliver access, that is powerful and that is key. How likely is that to happen? I think we're at an inflection point where we need to start talking about finding simple, straightforward ways to make access less of a hurdle. And I would very much hope that the world over, wherever these CAR-T therapies are approved and beyond, that people are inspired by the bus and say, we can do a bus too. Yep. And that the bus itself becomes a solution that is for where we are today, built into the system to really democratize the access.
Yeah. And is that, I mean, I know it's completely different, but I remember, God knows how many years ago, when the breast cancer rates in the UK were ridiculously high, and that people in rural parts of the UK were unable to get mammograms. And so they started these kind of mobile units that would go to shopping centre car parks and library car parks and things for people to be able to get the mammograms. And, you know, it had its teething problems and etc. But the numbers, you know, because of how early cases were caught, the numbers went right down. Do you see in a different way that almost being the same sort of thing? The potential for that is the same, right?
Yes, I do. And the bus itself for this, and for indeed perhaps other areas of medicine and other indications, other types of therapies where we're talking about access being a problem, the bus as the patient, the means of patient outreach is such an attractive way to get the system to open up. At the moment, a lot of the debate struggles around the lack of treatment centers, the lack of manufacturing, distribution across countries, across the world. And the bus really is an answer to communities that are currently effectively cut off from the innovation in this space because of the lack of infrastructure. And it's a very simple infrastructure addition that can be rolled out almost anywhere. So yes, that is very much what my hope is, that the bus doesn't stay a single prototype, but that this bus gets a lot of other buses in the fleet to broaden its reach, and that others follow this example.
Excellent. And what do you see, again, I'm going to put you on the spot, but I'm so fascinated with advanced therapies, and I love hearing about the different routes that it can take, because it is at such an inflection point right now. But what do you see as the patient experience of advanced therapies? What do you see that looks like in, say, the next 10 years?
My vision for the next 10 years is that we have a lot more people eligible and a lot more people who already are eligible for treatment actually obtaining their treatment. At the moment, the majority of patients who would be eligible for such treatments never receive them. And the reason is often to do with access because of the inefficiencies in the system to do with treatment centers, with manufacturing, but there are a number of other reasons. The reimbursement for the therapies and many others. The bus itself is not going to solve the access problem by itself, but it's an important contribution in the network of players and stakeholders in making advanced therapies more accessible, because it takes out some of the logistical complications that are currently perhaps even portrayed as the main driver for why patients can't access the therapy. So this simplification of access would certainly open up patients and manufacturers to each other in a way that could perhaps bring a little bit of dynamic into the market and really bring patients this innovation.
And is that also the I guess the marketing aspect, making patients aware that these treatments exist, that actually are available? I mean, I've had conversations with friends in the recent years that I've been involved in the cell and gene therapy. And for me, it's like science fiction, Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of stuff. For me to actually, that really happens. And that was the reaction that I was getting when I was talking to people. So, what would the impact of more people being aware that these are available, almost like people power, to drive the interest and therefore drive the people who control all the other things to say, well, actually, we need to move this forward? How much emphasis do you think needs to come from patient awareness of what's available to them?
You're right to point it out. Patient awareness is low, and it is not only patient awareness that is low, but generally I would argue that awareness in the respective patient communities certainly has room to improve. Again, the bus is an excellent means to try to explain to people what exists out there and how this works, and to explain that certain indications of cancer, and it is not broader than that at this point in time, can be treated in this way. And no, not everyone is eligible and not everyone is going to benefit from this, but it is a question of raising awareness that these exist and how they work, and perhaps also taking away some of the fear that is associated with, even inherent to the term advanced therapies, is a little bit intimidating. Yep. Perhaps if it's advanced, what does that mean for me? You just mentioned science fiction. It is not science fiction. No, these are approved
things happening.
Therapies. They have been tested and thousands of people have benefited from them already. So a little bit of lowering the hurdle, the bar, and just explaining also how the science works.
Exciting times to keep an eye on. I can feel your passion for what you do, and you've done 20 years in the bioscience space. What keeps you passionate about what you do after doing it for so long?
A lot of things keep me passionate. One of the things that keeps me passionate is that we still have people getting very sick every day and having the worst time. The patient journey for many of the chronic diseases is something that keeps me motivated to stay in the space, to keep trying every day to do something better for patients, to relieve their burden, to improve their treatment journeys, to offer even potentially curative therapies to them. There is still too much pain and suffering for us to say the job is done. The other thing that keeps me motivated is really the incredible pace of innovation in science. We have so much innovation in science and technology now, understanding of how diseases work. Our ability to translate this, at least conceptually, into something that can be given to patients is what keeps me as a scientist coming in on a daily basis to keep pushing and to keep trying together with our teams.
Excellent. Thank you. Outside biotech, I mean, you live in a beautiful place, but I know how busy you are. Where do you find energy and inspiration outside of biotech?
I step out the front door. In my case, quite often, if I need a break in between, and occasionally I do, all I need to do is step outside. As I said, I'm surrounded by the mountains.
Yep.
And I get my energy from hiking or running in the mountains, swimming. So I step out as I'm very much a nature lover. I love the city breaks, but I am very much a nature girl. So I love to go outside, particularly in between busy meetings. I occasionally step into the mountains for a short walk. It's possible from where I am. And that is what keeps me going. I love to swim. I'm very lucky that I can also build that into my daily routine. So when I feel like I need a little bit of clearing of the mind, I go for a swim.
Wow.
Probably for an hour, come back refreshed, and then I feel ready to go.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I know how very, very busy you are, and I really appreciate the time that you've taken to spend some time with us. Before I let you go, what word of advice would you have for some young person considering their career in biotech? Probably got their first job and they want to be a leader. What's your advice to them moving forward?
It's a difficult time in biotech right now, so it's hard to give the right piece of advice. And given that, I would say be curious. Be curious always. Do not be too fixated on any one given trajectory. You don't know what opportunities are unlocked by taking a leap into the unknown. It's what happened many times over during my career so far, of just being curious about something new and taking a leap of faith, perhaps, and saying, I will give this a go. I will try. I'm going to learn. I'm going to see how I can make this a good thing. And be confident. Just be confident that you can learn and change. There will be opportunities in life to build out your knowledge. And there will be inflection points where you might want to take a new turn, and both are equally fine.
And don't be afraid of failing.
Don't be afraid of failing. I have failed so many times, but it's part of the journey. And so in every failure lies the opportunity to either fine-tune or chart a new course that takes in the learnings from those experiences. So never consider what in the moment may feel like a negative experience as a failure. It's not the end.
Fantastic piece of advice. And I certainly, what I will take away is that ABC, always be curious.
Couldn't agree more. Always be curious. That's what opens up the doors for all new experiences.
Excellent. Well, I shall certainly be continuing to do that as things struggle and continue to struggle in the recruitment space, but we will move on from there. Well, listen, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. And I hope that we get a chance to meet and continue on the conversation. I can't wait to see where your journey takes you in advanced therapies.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to connecting with you again.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much.
Have a fantastic weekend.
You too. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. She Leads Biotech is brought to you by CNA International USA, a woman-owned boutique search firm based in New York. If you're looking to hire talent for your company or want support in achieving your career goals, please reach out to me at contact@cnaint.com. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And remember, the success of every woman should be an inspiration to another. So don't be afraid to share yours. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.